Hello, I'm Graham Fitch coming to you from Steinway Hall in London for Pianist Magazine, and I'm going to be talking about chromatics today, chromatic scales and chromatic passages from our pieces. And we generally start off chromatic scales with one fingering, and then when we get more advanced, there's a different fingering that we bring in that's actually faster. And I'm often surprised at how many advanced pianists don't know this fingering. So hopefully it'll help a few if you get faster with your chromatic scales. So the very first scale fingering we learn is where we put the third finger on the black keys. We're only going to use 3 fingers, 1, 2, 3. We put the third finger on all black notes, and we put the thumb on the white notes, except where we've got 2 white notes together, between E and F and B and C, where we'll use the second finger. So if I start on C, 1, 3, 1, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 3, 1, 3, 1, 2. And that's a really nice, comfortable fingering. Now, there are a couple of technical concerns here. What we've got to avoid is lifting up in our 4th and our 5th fingers. It's a common habit that we find in piano playing. I'll see if I can illustrate it for you, this sort of thing. Can you see what's going on there? My pinky's curling up and there's tension in my hand and it feels really awkward and tight. So if we start off, just let's try this. Just take your pinky finger and just run it along the keyboard, along the surface of the white keys, and then back down again. And as you play your chromatic scale nice and slowly, see if you can feel the ivory or the plastic under your pinky finger. And just because these are your fingers, you've got control over them, just ask really nicely, please pinky, would you stay on the key surface? Now, the only exception to this is when we're using rotary movements like this. Let me show you on the keyboard. When I'm freely rotating, then of course the pinky is going to come up from the keyboard, but it's not lifting up from the finger itself. It's being lifted by my forearm. Do you see the difference there? My pinky is still behaving itself. It's not doing this, but the forearm is lifting it up as a result of the rotary movements that I might be using. Now, an example of this in Für Elise, which probably everybody has played at some point, toward the end, we've got this nice long chromatic scale. Following exactly that fingering. The fingering that I showed you. Another technical consideration is because we're using a lot of thumbs, we want to avoid playing on the flat of the thumb here because that's going to make us really heavy. It's really, we need to be on the tip of the thumb. Let me show you in the left hand. Do you see how I'm on the tip of the thumb here? And if you want to just feel what that's like, just try this a little, make a little exercise. You can tap the thumb a few times and feel the movement coming from the root of the thumb rather than the flat, which is going to make it very heavy. So when we want to play faster chromatic scales, the next fingering, the more advanced fingering, is to use groups of 4 consecutive fingers wherever we can. Where we can't, we use a group of 3. So if I show you that well, I'll tell you what the piece is in a minute, but it goes up another octave. Let me just show you what I'm doing. I'm starting with my thumb on an E, and I can manage to get up to my 3rd finger on the F sharp. Then I can use my thumb again. There I can fit in a group of 4, group of 3, group of 3, group of 4, 3, 4. And as you can imagine, because I'm using fewer thumbs, it's faster and lighter. So when I've got this example here from the Mendelssohn Rondo Capriccioso, we've got this lovely chromatic scale that goes from down here all the way up to the top. It's much more convenient for me to use that long fingering. The only thing against, in this instance, is the fingering changes in the 2nd octave. So I've got my thumb on the E here. Now this octave starts with a 3, Now I come back to my thumb. So in other words, that fingering spans 2 octaves. If you want the same fingering in each octave, because we've got 4 of them, you can still do it, but it would work this way. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 1, 3. And that brings you, do you see how that works? It gives you the same fingering in each octave. So again, that gives you choices. So how do we learn this fingering? Well, I'm a great believer in blocking. Doesn't sound so great, but what I'm doing is playing the hand positions, group of 3, group of 4, and then ripping those groups. So fast rip. See how that works? So instead of thinking finger, 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 I'm thinking of a movement in my arm that takes in my fingers, of course, are working, but that's nice and fast. And then I link together 2 groups. And then those 2 groups until I gradually chain together the groups. We can also practice like this, the thumb and then the other notes in the group together. This is another type of blocking we can use. Again, it doesn't sound wonderful, but it teaches the brain the patterns of the notes. I think I've probably covered that subject of the advanced fingering. Let me move to the berceuse of Chopin for the double thirds, the chromatic double thirds, which we find in examination syllabus, often starting on A sharp, C sharp. It's a good place to start. Let me start here. And back, of course, because it's a legato fingering. Now, I'm going to explain the principle of the fingering so that you can apply it to any passage that you're playing from any piece. If we understand the principle, then we don't have to start at square one each time. So I'm going to use my 3rd finger on the black keys, 4th finger on the whites, 3, 4. Now I've got 2 white keys together, so I'm going to use my pinky. This is the upper voice. 3, 4, 3, 4, 3, 4, 5. 3, 4, 3, 4, 5. Now the lower voice, I'm using the sliding 2nd finger principle, which means that I slide my 2nd finger off the end of a group of black keys. Slide. Have you ever wondered why there's a little bevel on the black keys? It's to help us slide from black to white comfortably. Slide. Now when I come down, I slide again off the end of a group of black keys. So when I put that together, 3, 2, 4, 2, 3, 1, 4, 2, 5, 1, 3, 2, 4, 2, 3, 1, 4, 2, 3, 1, 4, 2, 5, 1, 3, 2, etc. And coming down, you've probably got the idea. So that when I find that scale in a passage, I can be very comfortable with it because I've practiced in so many different forms, that scale. Double octaves, chromatic double octaves. We often find them in virtuosic pieces where we have a lot of pedal and we use all 5th fingers. That sort of effect we often find in music of Liszt. It's not difficult to do. We just put our pedal down, at some point either change the pedal or vibrate the pedal. But I'm using all 5th fingers there because I want to use my forearm bounce. And if I change from 5 to 4, then there's a subtle change in my hand position that actually feels weaker than using all 5. So I would recommend all 5s. Just notice one thing about this scale. When I move from white to black, I have to move up and in. Do you see how the movement happens there? Up. And if you look at my upper arm is steering my hand in and out and up and down. Now, if we get legato chromatics, I'm just inventing something here. We can by all means use the fourth finger if our hand is big enough to do that without twisting at the wrist. And I think that's a good general rule. So for my hand, in that octave of the keyboard, I can do fives and fours without any difficulty. If I were down here, I wouldn't want to do that unless I moved across, because what I'm aiming to avoid at all costs is this twist, which is very debilitating and tension creating. So those are a few thoughts about chromatic scales. I hope that was interesting to you. Thank you so much for watching.